In the Gospel of Luke, we meet Zacchaeus, a man who was willing to climb a tree just to catch a glimpse of Jesus. But what happened next would change his life forever. Have you ever felt like you're too far gone to change? Or maybe you're struggling with the weight of your past mistakes. Zacchaeus' story holds powerful lessons for anyone searching for transformation and redemption. In this video, we'll dive into the incredible encounter between Zacchaeus and Jesus and explore the deep spiritual truths it holds for us today. This isn't just a story about a man and a tree. It's about courage, repentance, and the life-changing power of Jesus. By watching, you'll gain insights into how you can experience true transformation in your own life. What would it take for you to encounter Jesus and be forever changed? Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps spread this message to others who need to hear it. Let's get started and discover how Zacchaeus' story can inspire your own journey of faith. Zacchaeus was a man of wealth and position, holding the important role of a chief tax collector in the city of Jericho. As a tax collector, he worked for the Roman Empire, collecting taxes from his fellow Jews. This made him highly unpopular, as tax collectors were often seen as corrupt and dishonest. They would often extort more money than was required, enriching themselves at the expense of their own people. As a result, Zacchaeus was viewed as a sinner, a traitor, and someone who was far removed from the rest of the Jewish community. Though Zacchaeus had wealth and a high social standing, there was something missing in his life. Despite his financial success, he was still searching for meaning, and perhaps a sense of peace or fulfillment that his wealth could not provide. When Zacchaeus heard that Jesus, the famous teacher and healer, was passing through Jericho, he was eager to see him. Zacchaeus had heard about the miracles and teachings of Jesus and was curious to meet this man who was changing lives. Despite his status, Zacchaeus felt a deep desire to encounter Jesus, sensing that this could be the answer he was looking for. However, Zacchaeus faced a challenge. His short stature made it difficult for him to see over the crowd that had gathered to witness Jesus' arrival. The crowd, no doubt, was large and filled with people eager to see the teacher, making it hard for Zacchaeus to get a glimpse. This obstacle could have discouraged him, but Zacchaeus didn't give up. Instead, he took a bold step that would have been unusual for a man of his position and wealth. He ran ahead and climbed a tree to see Jesus. This act demonstrated Zacchaeus' determination to encounter Jesus, regardless of the obstacles in his way. Climbing the tree was a symbolic gesture. For someone in Zacchaeus' position, such an act would be seen as humbling, even humiliating. Men of his wealth and status didn't typically behave in such a way. Yet, Zacchaeus' desire to see Jesus outweighed any concerns about his dignity. He was willing to set aside his pride, and in doing so, he showed his genuine yearning for something deeper than the material wealth he had accumulated. His willingness to humble himself in front of others was a sign of how desperate he was for a change in his life. This moment in the story of Zacchaeus illustrates how, despite the outward appearances of success, people can still feel empty or unfulfilled. Zacchaeus had everything many would have desired: wealth, power, and status, but he lacked peace and a sense of purpose. His desire to see Jesus speaks to the universal human longing for meaning and connection with something greater. Zacchaeus' story reminds us that no matter where we are in life or how much we have, there is always a deeper need for spiritual fulfillment. In the context of society at the time, Zacchaeus' position as a tax collector set him apart in a negative way. He was a man of high status, yet he was also despised by his own people for his role in the oppressive Roman system. But despite the crowd's likely disdain for him, Zacchaeus was undeterred in his pursuit of Jesus. This shows the transformative power of Jesus' reputation. It had the ability to draw even those who were considered outcasts or sinners. Zacchaeus' decision to climb the tree to see Jesus marked the beginning of his life-changing encounter. Determined not to miss the chance to see Jesus, Zacchaeus took a bold step that surprised those around him. Despite his wealth and status, he climbed a sycamore tree, setting aside his pride and position in society. This simple act of faith and humility was significant. Zacchaeus, a man of importance, wasn't concerned with how others might view him. Instead, he was focused on getting a glimpse of Jesus. Climbing the tree might have seemed foolish to some, but it was a powerful symbol of his desperation to meet Jesus. Zacchaeus didn't let obstacles like his height or his reputation stop him from seeking something greater. As Zacchaeus perched in the tree, probably feeling a mix of excitement and anticipation, Jesus stopped and looked up. The crowd, no doubt, was focused on Jesus, but Jesus' attention was on Zacchaeus. Jesus, fully aware of who Zacchaeus was and where he was positioned, called out to him by name, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." This moment was incredibly personal. Jesus didn't just see Zacchaeus as a tax collector or as a sinner. He saw him as an individual, and he called him by name. This act was an invitation, one that went beyond simply noticing Zacchaeus. It was a direct and intimate connection. Jesus' decision to call Zacchaeus down from the tree was not just about acknowledging him in the crowd. It was a statement of grace and inclusion. While others might have seen Zacchaeus as unworthy or as a sinner beyond redemption, Jesus saw something different. He saw the heart of a man who, despite his past, was eager to encounter him. In a world where Zacchaeus was likely rejected by his community, Jesus' words were a sign of acceptance. Jesus wasn't concerned with Zacchaeus' past or his social status. He was focused on the possibility of transformation. When Jesus invited Zacchaeus to come down and hosted him at his house, it was a powerful act of grace. In that culture, to enter someone's home and share a meal was an act of deep connection and friendship. Jesus was offering Zacchaeus not just a physical meeting, but an opportunity for a relationship that would transform Zacchaeus' life. Jesus wasn't waiting for Zacchaeus to change or prove himself first. He reached out to him as he was, showing that redemption and grace come before perfection. This moment marked a profound turning point in Zacchaeus' life. The fact that Jesus saw Zacchaeus, not just physically, but spiritually, was life-changing for him. Jesus' invitation revealed that God sees beyond the outward actions and societal labels. While others might have viewed Zacchaeus as a man of greed and corruption, Jesus looked into his heart and saw someone who was ready for change. The encounter in the tree was more than just a meeting between Jesus and Zacchaeus. It was the beginning of Zacchaeus' transformation. Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus teaches us an important lesson about seeking Jesus with humility and faith. No matter who we are, where we come from, or what we've done, Jesus sees us for who we truly are and offers us the chance for transformation. Zacchaeus didn't need to change his position in life before encountering Jesus. All it took was a willing heart and a desire to see Jesus. In return, Jesus offered him grace, a personal relationship, and the opportunity to change. This moment reminds us that Jesus is always ready to meet us where we are, if we are willing to seek him with open hearts. When Jesus called Zacchaeus down from the tree and invited himself to his home, Zacchaeus responded immediately and joyfully. He didn't hesitate, but quickly came down, excited to host Jesus. This was a significant moment. Zacchaeus, who was once known for his greed and selfishness, now welcomed Jesus with open arms. His response was one of humility and eagerness to make things right. The joy he felt wasn't just about the honor of hosting Jesus. It reflected his deep desire for change and transformation in his life. However, Zacchaeus' transformation didn't stop with just inviting Jesus to his home. He took immediate and drastic actions to demonstrate his newfound faith and repentance. Standing up in front of everyone, Zacchaeus pledged to give half of his wealth to the poor. This was a bold and radical decision, as he was a wealthy man, and giving away half of his fortune was no small sacrifice. Furthermore, he vowed to repay anyone he had wronged 4 times over. Zacchaeus' actions clearly showed that his heart had been radically changed by his encounter with Jesus. His desire for wealth had been replaced with a desire to restore and make amends. The significance of Zacchaeus' change goes beyond just his financial decisions. It represents a complete heart transformation. Before meeting Jesus, Zacchaeus was driven by greed, using his position as a tax collector to take advantage of others. However, after encountering Jesus, Zacchaeus recognized the emptiness of his former life and understood that true fulfillment comes from living a life of integrity and generosity. His willingness to give away his wealth and make restitution for his wrongs reflected a deep inner change. It wasn't just about changing his actions, it was about a shift in his heart and priorities. Zacchaeus' transformation also highlights the power of repentance and the importance of seeking redemption. His willingness to make things right was not just a symbolic gesture, it was a true reflection of repentance. He understood that meeting Jesus was not just about satisfying his curiosity but about experiencing genuine spiritual change. Zacchaeus' life had been about taking from others, but now he was choosing to give back, showing that his life's purpose had shifted from self-serving to serving others and honoring God. This transformation also shows the incredible power of Jesus' grace. Zacchaeus was a man many had written off as a sinner beyond redemption, yet Jesus saw the potential for change in him. By inviting Zacchaeus into his life and showing him love and acceptance, Jesus offered Zacchaeus the chance to start anew. The radical change in Zacchaeus' actions demonstrated how powerful an encounter with Jesus can be. Jesus doesn't just offer us forgiveness, but the opportunity to live differently, with a renewed heart and purpose. Zacchaeus' story is a reminder that true transformation begins from within. His willingness to give up his wealth and right the wrongs he had done shows that change in our hearts should lead to real, tangible changes in our lives. We can learn from Zacchaeus' example that when we encounter Jesus, our priorities shift. It's not just about the outward actions but about our hearts being aligned with God's will. Zacchaeus went from being a man of selfishness to a man of generosity, and that change came because of his encounter with Jesus, a true transformation that affects every part of our lives. Zacchaeus' story teaches us the importance of seeking Jesus with humility and faith. Despite his wealth and position, Zacchaeus didn't let his status or past mistakes stop him from reaching out to Jesus. He was determined to see Jesus, even if it meant climbing a tree and making himself look foolish in front of the crowd. This act of humility shows us that no matter who we are or what we've done, seeking Jesus with a sincere heart is what matters most. When we approach Jesus with humility, it opens the door for transformation in our lives, just as it did for Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus also teaches us that it's never too late to seek Jesus, no matter how far we feel we have fallen. The fact that he was a tax collector, viewed as a sinner by society, didn't stop him from seeking Jesus. His desire for change was stronger than the judgment or rejection he may have faced from others. Like Zacchaeus, we all have moments when we feel lost or unworthy, but Jesus doesn't look at our past or our mistakes. Instead, he sees our hearts and our willingness to seek him. Jesus is always ready to meet us where we are. In Zacchaeus' encounter with Jesus, we see how Jesus calls us by name. When Jesus stopped and looked up at Zacchaeus in the tree, he didn't just acknowledge his physical presence, he called him by name. This is a powerful reminder that Jesus sees each of us individually. No matter how insignificant we may feel, or how much we might feel like we've been overlooked by others, Jesus calls us by name and invites us into a relationship with him. He knows us deeply and is always willing to meet us in our moments of need. Jesus' invitation to Zacchaeus wasn't based on his social status or past actions. It was about seeing his heart. Jesus saw the sincerity in Zacchaeus' desire to change, and that's why he called him down from the tree. This shows us that God looks at the heart, not the outward appearance. Zacchaeus might have been a sinner in the eyes of the world, but Jesus saw him as someone worthy of grace and transformation. Similarly, Jesus sees us for who we truly are, not based on our mistakes or shortcomings, but on the potential he sees in us. Another important lesson from Zacchaeus' story is the transformative power of encountering Jesus. When Zacchaeus met Jesus, his heart was changed, and his actions reflected that change. He immediately decided to give half of his wealth to the poor and repay those he had wronged. This demonstrates that true transformation goes beyond words. It shows in our actions. When we truly encounter Jesus, it changes us from the inside out. Like Zacchaeus, our priorities shift, and we begin to live out the values Jesus teaches. Finally, Zacchaeus' story reminds us that Jesus offers everyone the opportunity for redemption. No one is beyond hope, no matter how far they have strayed or how unworthy they may feel. Jesus did not reject Zacchaeus because of his past. Instead, he reached out to him and offered him a new beginning. This teaches us that no matter what we've done or where we've been, Jesus is always ready to offer us grace, love, and the chance to start anew. Just as Jesus called Zacchaeus down from the tree, he calls each of us to a life of transformation and redemption. Zacchaeus' story is a powerful reminder of the transformative power of an encounter with Jesus. He was once a wealthy, corrupt tax collector who was despised by society. But when Zacchaeus sought Jesus with humility, his life was changed forever. Jesus saw past his status and his past sins, offering him grace and a fresh start. In an instant, Zacchaeus' heart was transformed, and he chose to live differently, giving away his wealth and making restitution for his wrongs. Zacchaeus shows us that no one is too far gone for Jesus to reach and change. This life-changing encounter with Jesus wasn't just a moment in time for Zacchaeus, it was the beginning of a new life. Before meeting Jesus, Zacchaeus was focused on wealth and power, but after meeting him, Zacchaeus realized that true fulfillment comes from living with integrity and generosity. His transformation went beyond just his outward actions. It was a deep, spiritual change that reshaped his heart. Jesus didn't just offer Zacchaeus a glimpse of his love. He invited him into a relationship that would redefine his life and his purpose. As we reflect on Zacchaeus' story, we must ask ourselves some important questions. Are we seeking Jesus with the same determination and humility that Zacchaeus showed? Zacchaeus didn't let anything stop him from reaching Jesus, not even the crowd or his own pride. He climbed the tree because he wanted to see Jesus, and this simple act of faith led to his transformation. Are we willing to humble ourselves and seek Jesus with that same kind of determination? Jesus is always ready to meet us where we are and offer us a new beginning if we seek him with sincerity. Zacchaeus' story also reminds us that true transformation is not just about changing our actions, but changing our hearts. When we encounter Jesus, it should lead to a shift in our priorities and how we live. Zacchaeus was willing to give up his wealth and make things right because his heart had been changed by Jesus' love. We, too, should ask ourselves whether we are open to the transformation that comes when we truly encounter him. Are we ready to let go of what holds us back and embrace the new life that Jesus offers? In closing, Zacchaeus' story teaches us about humility, transformation, and the power of seeking Jesus. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives and how we approach our relationship with Jesus. Are we seeking him with all our hearts? Are we willing to change and live according to his will? Zacchaeus' story shows us that Jesus sees us for who we truly are, and when we open our hearts to him, he can transform us in ways we never imagined. What is one thing you can do today to seek Jesus more intently in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos that explore life-changing stories from the Bible. Let's continue to seek Jesus with the same determination and humility that Zacchaeus demonstrated.